It's time for Leatherman to save itself. Over the past, I would say, 6 months to a year and a half, it's been making a bunch of unforced errors. Why am I doing this? I recently saw videos about Leatherman needs to be saved. Leatherman is doing all these things wrong, but I haven't really seen a video that offered what could Leatherman do to be better. Today, we're going to do that. Welcome. This is Haku EDC, and we're going to talk about 5 things that Leatherman can do to change to become a better company, more responsive company, and sell more products here and abroad. But first, I was out walking around, so I stopped at a park and just start filming. Before I get into big deepness about the Leatherman things that they can do to improve themselves, I'm going to talk about a couple of myths. I'm talking about these myths only because they will drive some of the things that I talk about. The number one myth is that Leatherman is a large company. It is not a large company. If someone said that Leatherman was a small or medium-sized company, I would say, let's talk about it. Its total revenue is approximately $120, $130 million per year. That's the revenue, not the net profits. That's been pretty stable for about 2 to 3 years now. The other thing about it is that if you were to compare it to something like Milwaukee or Great Star or Chevron, or what's the name of the company that just bought SOG, the private equity firm, those are all multi-billion-dollar revenue companies. So much so that they are, revenue-wise, they are 2,000 to 3,000 times larger than Leatherman. So Leatherman is small, and that has some advantages and disadvantages. The second one is made in America. There's most items that Leatherman sells are really nice items. They're assembled inside the US, but a lot of the parts are sourced from Vietnam. Some of the work is done in Mexico, and other parts are sourced from China. With the exception of the Leatherman Arc, like this here, there's very few items that have made in the USA stamp. At one point in time, the OG Wave had made a stamp. And the reason why I mention that is because the number 3 thing is that the Leatherman quality is going down. I don't believe that. Do I believe that Leatherman's tools break? Yes. Do I believe that Leatherman's tools come not sharp at times? Yes, I believe that. But if you were to go back to some of the smaller tools, the squirt, the PS models, those things broke all the time. One of the reasons, and I know Leatherman has said that they cost as much to make, or pretty close to has some of their other tools, but one of the reasons why they stopped making them, but they still make Sidekick and the Curl, is because those items broke a lot more often. People would use the pliers and overdo them, and the pliers would break off. None of the scissors were very good, and so you constantly had the scissors break. And those things would break. What would people do? They would send them back to Leatherman. Leatherman would replace them, fix them, and send them back. When you think about the number of things, the number of waves, and I said the OG waves, which would break, or the PS, or the squirts, or the other small tools like that would break, that from either overuse of the user or just poor workmanship, scissors has an example, then that would just drive people nuts. And that would drive Leatherman's more nuts because it costs time, effort, and money to repair those items. Now, if you look at the OG Wave as a prime example, it had the same issues. I had an OG Wave, and the plier heads did break. I did not think that I was stressing it out, but I could have been. The scissors broke, and the saw cracked. It did not break, but it cracked. I did send it back to Leatherman. They did repair it, and this was the 2014 or 15 when I sent that back in, and then I just sold it. It wasn't anything that I wanted to keep. So now I have a Leatherman Wave 2. I'm sorry, Leatherman Wave Plus. What people forget is that the Leatherman Wave Plus is the third iteration of the Wave. It was the Wave, then there was a second generation Wave, which got better, and then the Wave Plus, which is a really nice item. The Wave Plus is much better quality-wise than the original Wave. Now, the original Waves had made in the US tags on them. The new Wave Plus don't, and I'm not sure how much difference in made in the US is between them, but there's probably a little bit. So those are two of the things that I wanted to talk about. There was a large company, the quality is down, and made in the USA. Leatherman has some things that people, I think, have myth about that I think that we can all agree on. One is that Leatherman is not going to be going out of business no matter what happens. It has a decent revenue, it probably has a decent profit margin. It's how those profits get spent will determine the future of Leatherman. Even if Tim Leatherman, his family, and others sell, it probably will be sold to a private equity firm. And I think when that happens, you are going to see the quality go down. You're going to see more things that are not made in the US. I'm pretty sure that they're going to hold tight for at least 5 more years. I'm not sure about after that. But I don't see Leatherman selling themselves to someone else. So those are my myths that are driving my recommendations to Leatherman. What are some of the myths that I may have missed that you hear people talk about and that you believe or disbelieve? And if you disagree with any of my myths, please say so in the comments below. So now let's go on to the 5 things that Leatherman can do to improve themselves. One of the first things that Leatherman could do, and that they could do this easily, is make some tools modular. I'm going to point out that SOG makes some tools modular. I don't mean fully modular, where someone can just say, I want this and this, but partially modular. For instance, they do have ones that are different color. What if you were not just to add color, but what if you were to say on a Leatherman Wave that you could actually look at where you have your serrated blade, your saw, and your file, and what if you could change one of those out for a larger pair of scissors? Now, the scissors on the Wave Plus are not all that great, but having a larger pair of scissors might be one of the things that they could do. The other thing that they could do is put in a blade exchanger, and maybe you want to get rid of your file and your saw, because with a blade exchanger you could put a file or saw on that. That's something that they simply could do. They would bring more value to the Leatherman Wave Plus without having it get up to the charges that you may want to get in a Leatherman Surge. I don't think that they have to go through every single thing that they make and make it modular. I just think a couple of things would be nice. Possibly the Wave Plus, and also possibly I could see adding something like a similar thing to the Wingman. Now that would drive up the cost for those things, maybe 10, 15 bucks at most. People would be willing to pay for that. What do you think? If Leatherman had just 1 or 2 of these that you were able to do some modulation of it, would you be willing to purchase those? Let me know. The Insider program is just weak. We as insiders, which I am one, get a 10% off coupon on your anniversary month of when you join the Insiders. Then you get another discount in October and some free mailing. I'm not sure if there's anything else that insiders get. That's pretty darn weak. If I'm wrong by that, do insiders get something else? Then let me know. The thing that insiders should be able to get is, and I'll use the knives that just came out a couple of months ago as an example, or the new arc color that came out. Insiders should be able to get first crack at those. The knives are a classic example where a week ahead of time that they could order theirs and they can get those in versus scrambling with everyone else. I know that there's different levels of insiders and you can do it by level. The other item that insiders should be available for, I should have done this too early on. And possibly with the Leatherman Arc, there should be ones when they came out, should be serialized. And they may cost a little more. Serialized things are both usable and collectible. Most insiders have multiple Leatherman pieces. The reason why I mentioned Victorinox is because they are the king of these serialized things. There are other knife companies that are starting to do that. Leatherman should do that with their knives and their tools. The classic example is the Victorinox Pioneer X. This normally sells for US $65. They also sell, or maybe less than that, $50. Then they also sell special editions, and then they put the year on them. And this is the same tool. They always come with a different color here. This is from 2021. And this one sells for $25 more. So they put a different color on here, which maybe costs them $10 or $15. And this is a moneymaker for them to do that. They do that every year for the Pioneer X. And people collect them, and people have them, and people use them. They also make just great gifts because they're somewhat unique. Now, this one is from 2016, and this is a serialized one. I don't know if you can tell that it is serialized here with a number. It's got a number here on it. The serialized one also comes with a Damascus steel blade. This Damascus steel blade, it's 25 bucks more at most. It's not a great blade, but I think generally when it came out, it sold for maybe 250 to 300 bucks. I don't remember. I should look it up. All these at retail. Compared to this one, the amount of profit on this and this, the amount of profit on these are just much greater. Now, this one is not one that I'm going to use often, or have I used, but it's probably worth, I don't know, 900 bucks now, 1,000 bucks on the open market. For someone that collects Victorinox, getting things that you can collect every year, these come out every year. These are not super collectible, but they're somewhat collectible, versus the one that you use every day, will help Victorinox sell more products. Some I've used extensively, some I've used very little. They could create these things for insiders to purchase first, and then offering them up to the general marketplace. Don't understand why they didn't do that with the Mallory knife. The serialized component of some of their, let's call lower end pieces, like the Wingman or even the Wave Plus, these to have a different color, different serialized, might be great gifts for people. The last thing is, I think that they need to create for the insider, maybe only for insiders, a special price for a full bundle. A full bundle would be something like your Leatherman Arc, or let's say free P4 or whatever. You get a ratchet, an inline screwdriver, a full set of these bits, a sheath, all in one container. If that's something that you want to serialize, fantastic. That should be available to insiders at a discount. These are your best customers. Reward them. That's my thought on the insider program. This is going to be the most controversial suggestions. Hear me out, and you don't necessarily have to agree with every suggestion. I stated originally that basically Leatherman's a small company trying to do worldwide stuff, but its market is pretty limited worldwide. There are some companies that have much better presences around the world. they should create a secondary shop. I think that shop should be somewhere in Eastern Europe or South Asia. I'm thinking about Croatia, Bulgaria, places like that. In South Asia, I'm thinking about Vietnam, India, maybe Pakistan. All those places have good people who know about metallurgy, who know about things related to creating knives, creating tools, and they've been successful at it. They have smaller shops there. This is a way, one, get a larger market out there. Two, being able to put some other quote unquote non-American style uh, stills on them. What if you were to get a Leatherman Surge type device that had an OS 8 or even a VG10 steel blade on them? Now that would make the knife a little cheaper than if they put it together or in another country. That would make it a little cheaper. And so now you have a knife that is able to be seen in multiple places around the world. While it would compete with some of the other knives, some of the more expensive knives that Leatherman has, it would also get them in other markets. Exporting, especially now with various tariffs going back and forth, but exporting a multi-tool from the US to many countries is really expensive. Not to mention getting tools from those countries to the US that are of high quality is going to be very expensive. So having a little small shop that, number one, puts together things and also adds different knife styles would be beneficial. It's also a learning experience for Leatherman because then they can see possibly some more innovative things that are going on around the world. It is controversial. It makes Leatherman a slightly less US made company. I think it helps to build their long-term strength, their long-term viability. Leatherman, think about opening up another shop to create some more ideas. Section 4, Leatherman Accessories. Leatherman has some really good accessories that they make. I still think that this Leatherman ratchet here is the best ratchet that is made by Leatherman or by any other third-party companies. Third-party companies do make some really interesting things. They make holders for bits. They even starting to make bits that third-party companies have. This little volty things that help you measure the voltage across devices. It's great if you have an RC device or other device there. Like I said, this is not Leatherman bits, but they work well. There's all kind of Leatherman accessories that are ratchets. Even if you have some older ones that don't have the Leatherman extender space, you can use these things for them to actually make sure that you can carry and use 1/4-inch bits and Leatherman bits in. And there's a whole bunch of third-party people. Kristen Van Patten is one of them. I've gotten things like this, which is your hammer that you saw on my PS and also my skeletal I have a hammer on. There are third-party people that make wire cutters rather. These wire cutters are fantastic. They're better than the original ones, generally speaking. And there's all kinds of different third-party gear here, along with Leatherman. This is an opportunity for Leatherman to create a Leatherman accessories group. And this accessories group are people from both inside and outside Leatherman that get together and talk about what are some great Leatherman accessories and what are some potential ones. This is also a group of people that help Leatherman as they move forward In other words, how do they make their next multi-tool? How do they make the next knife? How is that made better? These are all people that have some expertise in using Leathermans and knowing the potential of their Leatherman multi-tool or their Leatherman knife. Now, this group could be just a group of people who do modding and people who actually sell third-party gear, and that they would have to join Leatherman. They may have to sign some NDAs or whatever, but they could be doing this to help Leatherman, and they could help themselves at the same time. Leatherman can charge them a few bucks, maybe 150 bucks every 3 years or 2 years to be part of this particular group. Leatherman can also give them some very particular things that they may need to have to develop their newer products. This happens in lots of areas. Google just came out with a Pixel phone. Apple just came out with a new iPhone. If you go online, there literally are cases where this is my new Pixel 10. I just upgraded from a Pixel 7. There was already a case made for it from Quad Lock, and I use Quad Lock things to work with, to hook up my phone with. And I think that that's true for just a lot of things. You can do it with computers. You can do it with vehicles. If you have a Ford truck, there's all kind of third-party accessories. There's a third-party accessory group that Ford has and that they interact with. The same is true for Microsoft and their products. So there's groups of people out there which influence input into those particular kinds and types of products. I think Leatherman should do the same thing. It'll cost them some staffing time. It'll cost them time to think about things, but I think overall it would make Leatherman a better organization, a better product maker. Think if when we put out a product, a new multi-tool, whatever kind of multi-tool it is, and then there's third parties that have 10, 15, 20 accessories ready to go. That would make someone want the tool more, because if they found an accessory that they really liked and that they really wanted, then that would make things just great for them. Leatherman, you need to create an accessory and our modding group. People mod them are also really good at figuring out what people want, how they work, how the mods interact. I stated earlier that Leatherman should look at doing some custom work, and I think having this group, they can understand how best to customize or what are some customizable options for their particular multi-tools and their knives. I don't think, as I stated, I'm not expecting their customization to be rocks on, but more like SOG, a few things here and there. Go beyond the colors. Leatherman, create a Leatherman accessory and mod group. You will help us as customers, you will help yourself, and you will help third parties. This is actually the hardest one for me to talk about because I know it impacts people's egos, it impacts their personality, and it may also impact how they are perceived at doing their jobs. I don't know all the ins and outs of Leatherman. What I'm doing is based upon what I've read, what people have told me, and my knowledge about certain items and certain things and economics and how it works. The one thing that of the 5 things I'm talking about, my weakest knowledge is probably in this area, public relations. And I talk about this from the point of view of a 100% pure consumer of Leatherman goods. Their PR, whoever they're hiring to do their PR, is just not doing a good job. I just looked at the whole thing with their new knives, and the sort of catchphrase is built different. But there's nothing that says how they're different, or if different is better, or if different will help you as a knife user. Previous to that, when you go to the Leatherman site especially, and look at some of the things for information, you get a lot of people who are just standing around talking about how to use it. No one's actually out there using them. Very few of the videos are actually have people there who are smiling, who are having fun, who are problem solving. That's what they should be pointing toward ad-wise. People are having fun with their devices. People who are problem solving with their devices, whether it's a knife, whether it's a multi-tool. And to weave that in with the legacy of Leatherman and also the reliability of their products long term, including their warranty. What I talked about at the end there, their reliability, their warranty, are all sort of way far in the background whenever you see anything about Leatherman, especially when you start looking at the ads that they make. A lot of them are just basically pictures of people. They're static. They're not moving. People are not problem solving with it. Who do public relations for Leatherman need to get on board about showing Leatherman has a problem solving product, a product that people can have fun with. When you go to other knife places, other multi-tool places, you actually see people having fun. You actually see people solving problems. I don't see that for many of the Leatherman pieces. I'll show you a few Leatherman things and tell me, are people smiling? Are people having fun? Are they problem solving? Or are they just using the tool? Come on, Leatherman staff. You folks can do better than this. Let's get on it. Hire someone else outside then to help you. Seen my suggestions. Make some tools modular was number one. Create a shop in Eastern Europe or South Asia. Make insiders program more valuable to insiders. And that might include serializing some of the things that go to insiders. 4, create an accessory group, someone who helps Leatherman clients, Leatherman people, and Leatherman create some secondary goods and accessories. 5, just stop selling innovation and start selling that it's fun, that it's a problem solver. That's why people buy Leatherman, because they want something that's fun, problem solver, and reliable. This is Haku EDC. If you're interested in some more stuff about just my thoughts and multi-tools, please click up here. If you want something that the YouTube thinks that you should listen to, please click up here. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the future.